This is KUTV Primetime News with Irene Mwangi.
Thank you for staying tuned. Now, let's shift focus to our discussion tonight. We're talking about indisciplines in schools and school unrest, with the question being whether caning should be introduced back in schools. We're being joined by Dr. Nyachio via Zoom. Thank you so much, Dr. Gladys Nyachio, for joining us.
Yes, thank you.
All right, now let's start off from what we have seen education stakeholders commenting. There's been an issue of school unrest, the question being whether caning should be introduced in schools. As a sociologist, do you think caning should be reintroduced in schools?
Well, I've been following the discussion lately, but I think it should not be reintroduced in schools because times have changed. These were means that we were using some times back. And now we have the children we are dealing with are not the children we had like 10 years ago. So we may need to think of other ways of disciplining our children other than introducing the cane.
But
in this term, in this term, I'm talking about the beating. You see, there are different ways of disciplining kids, even the spanking or beating. There's a big difference there.
But why do you think caning has not worked years on? Why has it not been a form of punishment that can sort of streamline the children?
Well, you know, children are actually different. The way you deal with one child is not the same way you'll deal with the other child. And caning as a way of socializing these children to be disciplined may not work because there's something that we miss. The discussion. The talking about what the issues are is what we are missing. So we just cane them. We don't tell them what is wrong. We don't know which values. They don't know which values we are trying to make them learn. So they repeat the same thing. So it may not work unless we change our tact.
Mm-hmm. So what do you think are some of the new measures that should be introduced in terms of disciplining the children? Because we are seeing some of unprecedented actions by the children, some removing even pangas to threaten teachers. What can be the new measures to tame the indiscipline in schools?
We need to go to the root. We need to go to know what the problem really is. So we need dialogue. We need to find out what exactly is the problem with these children or these students or these pupils. We just need to dialogue with them first to pinpoint what is wrong and then try to bring up whatever else that we can do.
All right, you are a sociologist, and some of the pundits have said concerning the issue of children growth is that parents are missing out in the social development of kids due to the issue of boarding schools. Can there be a correlation between parenting and the issue of indiscipline that you're witnessing now in schools?
Yeah, that is very possible. Actually, you're mentioning boarding schools, but even the children who are at home are never with their parents. So absentee parents, and the fact that especially women, most mothers are working now. Fathers have always been working, but now we have more women working in the other sectors outside the home. So the children have very little time with their parents. The ones in boarding schools could be worse. So I think the parenting issue is actually contributes a lot to these indiscipline cases we have in schools. Yeah.
All right, we have had cases of school arsons and the issue of children threatening the teachers. And now some have blamed what we are witnessing now to mental health that was occasioned due to the COVID-19 pandemic that we witnessed in the country. What can you say concerning that particular sort of graph as a sociologist?
That is possible because when these children had to stay home abruptly, there was a change in pattern. They were used to a certain pattern, and yet now things changed. They and again, when the parents were not home and they were home alone, they did not know what to do. Some were also even introduced to these online things. They were learning other things apart from what they should learn in terms of values. So the issue of this break, the COVID break could have actually contributed in terms of children getting confused, not knowing exactly what to do, and especially where there is no adult guidance or adult mentorship. They are prone to do these things if they are not guided well. Yes.
Right. Now, the Parents Association of Kenya has blamed school management to the indiscipline that you're witnessing in schools, saying that the school management has refused or has not been keen to ensure discipline among children or students back in school. Looking into the way school management have been handling school indiscipline, do you think they are to blame due to some of these cases we are witnessing across the country?
They are not necessarily to blame, because the issue of discipline has to do with socialization. How have these children or kids or students, we can call them students for now, how have they been socialized from when they were small? You see, there are those values that are inculcated, and there are those cultures that these children get into. So if these discipline cases have not been dealt with by the parents to start with, then I don't think the school management can do any miracle. Caning them will not solve the problem. They'll be caned, they'll get used to the cane, and they'll continue with their lives. So I think parents are the biggest stakeholder in this issue of indiscipline or indiscipline in schools. We need to start from where we need to start. When we miss the first point of socialization, socializing these kids in ways that they are able to manage themselves well, they're able to follow the rules and regulations that are set in society, then we will not make it. So we cannot blame the school management wholly because it's not actually their problem at that point. Because as a child grows, they internalize the surrounding environment and what they are taught. So at that point, maybe it's too late from a psychological point of view. It might be too late to change much.
All right. Now, what some of the pundits are saying is that they go back to the good book and say, spare the rod and spoil the child. For them, due to culture and their way of living, really discussing with a child concerning a behavior is not enough. And therefore, questions have been, what then is the next measure or discipline mechanism that can be used to instill discipline? Because looking into our African setup, caning has been the traditional way of maintaining discipline in children. Therefore, what can be?
We need to understand what is the rod in this case. I know this is a very controversial issue if the religious people start asking. What is the rod? Is the rod caning them, beating them, or guiding them? I'm not opposed to entirely even spanking children. I'm opposed to the things that even you, Irene, you've seen on social media. A kid is being beaten like a wild, but there are other ways of dealing with this. We can use positive reinforcement. We have positive and negative punishment. We can praise them when they do something nice. I know that sounds like very not important, but it makes a lot of change. So people get to know that, okay, if I can do this, I'm okay. I mean, there's approval, and approval is very important when a child is growing up. There's also negative punishment. If you know that a certain thing is making them distracted, or you know that if the existence of phones in schools will make them do this and that, then you remove that, and then try to use other means. Dialogue, get to know what is ailing them in terms of social life, emotionally. Some people even have mental issues, and yet not much attention is given to them. So I think for every school, we should have counseling sessions for all children, whether they have reported issues or not, because some students just keep information and don't say anything, and one day they wake up in the morning and do something very crazy. So I think we have other ways of doing this thing.
Now, let's talk about the issue of abolition of boarding schools. It is something that has caused controversy over the last week, given that the Kenya National Union of Teachers has called for the abolition of boarding schools. And the reason for that is that they feel for children to have a holistic growth, then there must be abolition of boarding schools. We have seen countries like the United States having embraced such measures concerning the issue of boarding schools. Now, from where you sit looking into the pattern, as a sociologist, do you think abolition of boarding schools might be one of the mechanisms in terms of creating an ambient environment for parents to interact with their children and to monitor them as they grow?
Yes, I think that position is right from my perspective because the family, the home, is a place where these people are nurtured. When especially, I'm not saying that a single parent family is bad, but when there are two, it's even better. But still, even one will still guide this child. So when they are in that family unit, they'll get the love, they'll get the approval, they'll get to learn the values that are important in their culture or in their and in the society. And personally, I was in a boarding school from standard 5. I don't think I liked the experience, and if I head away, which actually I'm working on, my children will not go to boarding school. They will go to day schools and come back home in the evening until they are now old enough to go. So I think that could be one of the measures. Of course, it's controversial, but it is one of the measures to ensure that we know who our children are. We know where they are going wrong. We know where we can correct and what time. So when we don't know our children, we will just be surprised when we hear that, oh, they have been involved in this and this, and then we'll even try to defend them. So I think I would give my vote for abolition of boarding schools.
All right. Now, of course, that is a controversial subject which education
Yeah.
stakeholders have different opinions. We look into the issue of arson attacks in schools. So far, I think 11 schools have been torched down by students. Now, when you look at it from the way parents are seeing it, they're seeing it as a point of indiscipline. But some of the mental health experts are seeing it as a form of students expressing their emotion, either fear, because most of the time it happens a few months before the national examinations. Now, as a sociologist, looking into the way the issue of arson attacks are unfolding and the school unrest, do you see it from a point of children expressing their emotions, or is it a case of indiscipline altogether?
Well, it has all those factors that you have mentioned. Uh, of course, we know that it is not all the students are involved. It's not all the students get involved in these arson cases. It is just a few who influence others, and they get into this and burn down schools. So there are many factors. All those that you have mentioned could contribute, and this is why all the stakeholders, the parents, the teachers, and anybody who has to do with these education issues and children, even the ministry that deals with children, should be able to come together and look into these issues. It's not a single issue that causes all this. Indiscipline, of course, is there. Those who are just want to disrupt others are also there. So there are many factors, but we cannot say that it's only one thing that is causing, but we need to consult. We need to sit down and talk and see what we can do and forge a way forward.
All right. Now, also in line with that, we have seen situation of children attacking teachers to the extent that teachers now say they now fear getting to classes due to some of the children having weapons and others even being blunted out to threaten teachers. Now, there's a thin line between that particular case because teachers cannot cane students due to the issue of the circular that was given by Teacher Service Commission. And again, they can't find the discipline, the right way of disciplining these children. Therefore, it creates a sort of animosity between teachers and students, and yet we expect them to have an amicable way of interacting because of their learning activities. Therefore, the question has been now, how do teachers interact with some of these students? Because we have had even some union of teachers saying that teachers who have been threatened by students should be removed, retransferred from those schools and getting into other schools due to the issue of stigmatization. So how can this issue be solved amicably?
Well, this is actually a predicament because it is certain students, not all students. But if one child or a student shows that the teacher is nothing, they can actually fight them, they can scare them, then the others might just follow suit. So I think this one, I may not know exactly what should be done, but I know that dialogue can work. I know that for such cases, Probably they can be taken for counseling and to be talked to just know what is going on in their lives, because a lot of students have issues that we do not understand, the backgrounds or their homes. Some are coming from homes that have real issues, not poverty, but real issues that would affect the way they behave. I know these are predicaments. Actually think about it and wonder what can be done. But I know that if the stakeholders can come together, they might come up with a solution. This is something that cannot be dealt with the people in their own compartments. This is a topic that should be brought to the table, and all stakeholders contribute to see what we can do about it.
All right. Now, of course, that is an issue that cannot be solved concerning a discussion. It has to be brought into the table and discussed. Now, as children are in school right now, they are racing against time to cover their syllabus, and therefore the issue of mental health and counseling has not been quite embraced in schools. And it comes at a time when mental health has been seen as a disease, even after many years of people ignoring issues when it comes to mental health. Now, how can teachers and parents ensure that they check into the mental health of children? Because some of them don't even know where to start, because this is a new thing altogether, especially at this time when you're having COVID-19 and the stress that are coming with parenting. So what can be a way that children can be brought to the table when it comes to the issue of mental health?
Actually, the mental health issue starts even with the teachers. The teachers have issues. They are not able to help these children because they also have their own issues, even mental. So in this case, I think we need to involve the counseling community to have teachers counseled first. And every teacher, I think, should be equipped with basic counseling skills and how to notice a distressed child. So let's deal with the instructors. These people who are taking care of these children have stress. They have mental issues. The children have mental issues. So who will help the other person? So I think it should be a basic requirement that all teachers be given basic counseling, and all the learners, at least every school, have somebody to listen to the children and guide them accordingly. Otherwise, this problem may persist for some time, because we are also trying to fit in the new schedule, and there's a lot of work. We are all stressed. So we need to strike a balance.
All right, now as we finalize, Dr. Nyachio, kindly put into perspective what the different education stakeholders should do to address this particular predicament we are facing as a nation, given that parents, the Ministry of Education has been trying to find a sort of a solution, but still we're having these cases being pronounced now and again. When you look at it, what can be the solution that can be brought to the table to ensure that we're having sanity in terms of our children's education?
Yeah, as we've said, we may not have a single item or solution to all these problems, and this solution may not be as like something that can be done very fast. This is something that is going to be long term, but it has to be started. So what I would suggest that stakeholders do is that they come together and try to find the root problem. Ministry of Education come together with the parents, with the teachers, with the counseling society, and see what can be done in this situation. And we also need to know that these children are developing, and also they are totally different from each other. Every child has their own individuality. So it is not a simple, this is a very complex issue that will need to be researched on. We also need to do research. Sometimes we have interventions without research, and therefore we do not know what we actually are targeting. So we would suggest that there is much of research in this area to find out what actually is the problem. We might be dealing with things that we are just assuming. We need evidence to know what interventions to put across, or to know who is the main stakeholder doing what in this sector in terms of this issue currently.
All right, thank you so much, Dr. Nyachio, for making time and giving us a perspective concerning what is happening in terms of education.
Thank you.
All right, that has been Dr. Nyachia, of course, giving us a perspective concerning the issue of education, saying we should not single out things, we should go and look to the root of the problem and find a solution to what is happening in our children concerning the issue of school unrest. We are taking a short break, but we'll be back with more with what is happening in the country and beyond our borders. Do stay tuned.